Welcome to the first inning, sports fans, autograph seekers, and those who look at the scenic view with the sound off. No scenic views in this show. I'm in town visiting for a spell, and I'm gonna end the show a little bit different today with a curveball. So let's go. When Bobby joined the Phillies in 1960, manager Gene Mock said, "All Del Greco has to do is hit a little better, and he'll be one of the greatest. There isn't a better fielder anywhere." This show continues my theme about players who were signed by their hometown team and is another show about a guy named Robert. In this case, Robert George Del Greco. Signs his name Bob, but on most of his baseball cards, he's listed as Bobby Del Greco. Del Greco means the Greek in Italian, which became his nickname. Born in 1933, raised in the Hill District of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Yep, another episode about a ball player from PA. I lost track of how many shows I've done recently on players that hail from Pennsylvania. Bob is one of 10 kids and by all accounts was a good-natured, happy kid with a great smile. That went away for a while when his dad died. The teen had to drop out of high school in order to help support the family and did this by picking up a bat and playing pro baseball. Standing 5'10" and a half, weighing 190 pounds, the youngster was only 17 years old in 1950 when he signed as an outfielder with his hometown team, the Pittsburgh Pirates. It was Pirate lifer and Hall of Fame player Pie Traynor, who was a manager and a scout, that closed the deal, signing Bobby for the sum of $500. Afterwards, the teenager said, "I just hope I can play a lot of baseball and make some money for my mother. I'm going to build her a new house. You can bet on that." Bob played a season of Class D ball, followed by a season in Class C. And because the Pirates lost 90 games in 1951, they brought in a lot of young players to spring training camp for the 1952 campaign, 30 of them, with Bobby Del Greco being one. Branch Rickey Jr., who was vice president of Pirates minor league teams, said, "Del Greco is the best center field candidate in the Pittsburgh organization, and I'm including the Pirates too." Pittsburgh's GM Branch Rickey agreed with his son and said, "Del Greco is one of the finest instinctive outfielders I've seen since Terry Moore. I don't know how a boy that young could be so good." But nobody could help that 1952 Pirates team that lost 112 games. So America is right in the middle of the Korean War, another war that will have our soldiers fighting on foreign soil. Bob gets a 4F deferral, being the sole provider for his family, due to his brother being killed in World War II fighting at Iwo Jima. It's because of this, the Pirates showed extra interest in Bob, knowing that he would not be lost to military service. It all worked out in the end, especially for Bobby's mom, who would not lose another son to the horrors of war. That's my Uncle Tony in front of his tent, which he calls me and my new home. So the guy they call the Greek was one of only 3 rookies to make the Pittsburgh Pirates roster, and it was on a Wednesday night at St. Louis Cardinals Sportsman Park, April 16th, 1952, the second game of the season, and Bob Del Greco would make his big league debut in front of his proud mom and some 40 relatives and friends, along with 4,000 fans in attendance. His family and friends made the 600-mile trip from Pittsburgh to watch the 19-year-old play Major League Baseball for the first time. And fortunately for Bob, he did not disappoint those that made the long trip to see him sporting a big league uniform that happened to be from their hometown team, the team that they love, the Pittsburgh Pirates. Bob had a great night, going 3 for 4 at the plate, hitting a triple and two singles. That's a nice way to start your MLB career. Not too many players have their first major league game go like that. The late, great Willie Mays was 0 for 5 in his MLB debut. But as we all know, most teens are a little dumb and totally fearless. So was Bob Del Greco, at first. This was evident when chasing down fly balls, with Bob sometimes playing a little too fast and loose. It's because of this he ran into more than his fair share of outfield walls, including the ivy-covered brick wall at the friendly confines of Chicago's Wrigley Field. Yep, Bobby attended the School of Hard Knocks and learned the hard way to avoid walls by eating a few Cubby bricks and swallowing a bit of Wrigley ivy. It was in August of the 52 season that Bob and his teammate, Tony Baratome, a childhood friend from the Hill District, were both honored by their Hill District neighbors before a game at Pirates Forbes Field. Each player was given a $4,000 U.S. savings bond. 24 hours later, Bob was sent down to the minors despite his great glove. The reason given? He was taking too many pitches. But 5 weeks later, he was brought back up to finish the season for Pittsburgh, but would start 1953 in Triple-A with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And during that offseason, Bob Del Greco played in benefit basketball games with other current and former Major League ball players that lived in the Pittsburgh area, raising money for local charities. 1954 would see Bob attending his third Pirates spring training camp, but he didn't make the squad. And now, as they say, his travels begin, as he would bounce around the A's. Starts the year in Double-A with New Orleans Pelicans, would get promoted to Triple-A in June with Pirates' top affiliate, the Hollywood Stars, hit poorly and was sent down to Single-A, Williamsport Grays. In August, Bob was brought back up to finish the season with the Hollywood Stars due to the Stars' crazy Puerto Rican outfielder Carlos Brinier punching out an umpire during a game and was then suspended for the rest of the season. Bob Del Greco hung on with the Stars and would start the 1955 season with the club. And it was early in the season. Bob's wallet was $10 lighter when Stars manager Bobby Bragan fined both Bob and Paul Pettit for what the manager called stupid base running. Pretty funny story. Bob would somewhat rectify the situation by hitting .370 through May, picking up $100 as the Pacific Coast League's most improved player of the month. And he had a hit streak of 22 games hitting .442. Bob gave credit to Williams sports manager Larry Shepard for his newfound success at the plate, saying, "When I used to have a 2-0 count, I'd prefer to wait the pitcher out for a walk. Now I'm going for the first good pitch that comes along." So the Greek showed off his newfound batting skills at the Pacific Coast League All-Star Game, going 2 for 3 at the plate with a double, a single, driving in 2 runs and scoring twice to help the PCL All-Stars rally past the San Diego Padres. He did that despite getting hit in the hand during the game by a pitch from Padres Bob Hall. When the 1955 season was over, Bobby was chosen as a center fielder on the postseason PCL All-Star team, and that winter he would play ball over in the Dominican League. He opened up the 1956 season as part of Pittsburgh Pirates' starting lineup and got a nice compliment from former Stars manager, now Pirates manager Bobby Bragan, who said he ranked Bobby Del Greco behind only Willie Mays and Duke Snider as the best NL center fielders. Just nice words, because as good as he was with his arm and glove, Bobby Del Greco wasn't as good with his bat, and his average showed it. He'd have to fight the tag light hitter his whole MLB career. In May, the Pirates traded Bob and Dick Littlefield to the St. Louis Cardinals for the reigning NL Rookie of the Year, Bill Verdon. Cardinals GM at the time was the infamous Frank Lane, known as Trader Frank. He would later say it was the worst deal he ever made. Of course, that wasn't the first or the last time Trader Frank would use those exact words. And it wasn't long before Bob became the Cardinals' starting center fielder, with St. Louis manager Fred Hutchinson saying, "There's no doubt we're a sounder, better balanced club when the kid is in there." Fred Hutchinson right there. It was Bob Del Greco's defense which he would be known for, as well as his arm, when he helped decide the 1956 NL pennant race. In the next to the last game of the season at Cardinals Busch Stadium, Bob Del Greco made 2 circus catches in the top of the 9th inning to prevent Milwaukee Braves from breaking a 1-1 tie. The first catch was off Eddie Matthews. Went deep to center field, and Bobby Del Greco had to chase it down, crashed into the center field wall, but held on to the ball. The second highlight catch was a running one-handed grab off a shot from Jack Dittmer's bat that ended the inning. Cardinals would win the game, knocking the Braves out of first place and handing the pennant to the Dodgers. With the 1956 season over, Bobby decided to try his hand playing winter ball again, this time in the Cuban League, and come spring of 1957, he had a write-up in the Sporting News saying he had the best arm in the Cardinals outfield. Yet he was beat out in spring training camp, and in April was traded to the Cubs, who not long after optioned Bobby to the Montreal Royals, Triple-A ball in the International League. It was there Bobby would hit better than any of his previous seasons, leading the team, and in the All-Star game between the World Series champion Brooklyn Dodgers and the International League All-Stars, Bob scored the only run in a 2-1 loss to Brooklyn. He was chosen by all 8 of the International League managers as the best defensive outfielder in the league with the best throwing arm, an award Bob Del Greco would win a few times over the years while playing in AAA. Now it's September, and we're coming down to the end of the 1957 season with the New York Yankees dealing with injuries in their outfield that included Mickey Mantle, Yogi Berra, and Hank Bauer. So they bought Bob Del Greco from the Chicago Cubs, and he would play in 8 games for New York, going 3 for 7 at the plate with 3 runs scored, and in the process surprising himself, saying, "You just seem to do things differently and better with the Yankees." He said they call it the Yankee way. Everything they do big. Not eligible for the World Series, yet the team voted to give Bobby 1/4 share of the prize money in that World Series loss to the Milwaukee Braves. And he would start the 1958 campaign with the Yanks, but would be optioned to the Richmond Virginias, New York's AAA team in the International League. And for the second year in a row, Bob Del Greco was acknowledged by the managers in that league, this time for being the league's best hustler and smartest player. And when the Yankees won the 1958 World Series, the players again voted to give Bobby 1/4 share of the prize money, this time the winner's share. In April of 1959, the Yankees sold Bobby for $20,000 to the Phillies' top affiliate in Buffalo, and just like in 1955 and 1957, Bob Del Greco was named to the 1959 International League All-Star team, and that team beat the Pittsburgh Pirates 14-5, with Bobby having a great game, going 3 for 4 against his former team, the team he grew up watching right down the road from his house. Again, the International League managers voted him the league's top defensive outfielder and the outfielder with the best arm. And it was at a night game in Buffalo. Bob Del Greco was honored by a group of Italian Americans from the area who gave him gifts worth about $1,500, including a $1,000 savings bond. This is something I've noticed with a few other players on shows that I have done. And I point this out to show how much fans appreciate a local guy playing in the minor leagues for very little pay, and how they would try to help that player and his family out financially. Bob opened the 1960 season as the Philadelphia Phillies starting center field and would make 2 unbelievable catches to save the Phillies from losing the game against the leading Pirates at Connie Mack Stadium. One of those catches, Bob says, was the best of his career. He sprinted into right center field and dived while at full speed to snag a line drive ball off the bat of Bill Mazeroski. Then Pirate pitcher Vern Loss smacked a hard line drive to center. Bobby turned and sprinted back, running at full speed, and at the last second jumped into the air and caught the ball before smashing into the bleacher wall and then falling down with the ball still in his glove. The Phillies would win the game in the 9th. The worst team in MLB beat the best. Supposedly, before the game, Bobby went over and was talking with some of the Pirates players, saying he was kind of rooting for them because he wanted to see the World Series in his hometown. Pirate manager Danny Murtaugh remembered it like this, saying, "By the 8th inning, Del Greco had made 3 hits and had climbed the walls twice for great catches and was beating us single-handed. We yelled at him to quit rooting for us." Bob was traded to the Kansas City A's in July of 1961 and was the A's regular center fielder through 1963. And except for 8 games back with the Phillies in 1965, the rest of his career was spent in AAA, retiring from the game after the 1966 season. Bob Del Greco played in 731 MLB games over the 9 years he was in the Big Show and was posthumously inducted into Pennsylvania Sports Hall of Fame in 2022. Well, sports fans, autograph collectors, and those who watch for the scenic view with the sound off, we've come to the top of the 9th inning on today's show that had no scenic view. Just about ready to throw that curveball at you, but first I will leave you with this. Lately here on Held by Legends, Signed by Heroes, which is the autograph segment on my show, Souvenir Programs here, a division of Gimbal Co. The theme of my shows has been about teenagers who were signed by their hometown team. Here's a quote from a former Pittsburgh Pirate player and announcer, Steve Blass, who said this: "I think a hometown guy playing for his hometown team, I don't know if there's anything better than that, and I don't know if anyone appreciated that more than Bobby." That's a nice way to end this episode right there. And it ties in perfect with my theme of the moment. Sure, it'd be easy to end each show with a cool quote from the player I'm profiling, or one from somebody he played with. But instead, I just wait and take my time to find my own ending, or sometimes my brother Ed comes up with a good idea. But the most important input comes from my dad. That's where some of my best ideas come from. My random talks with Pops. Bottom of the ninth. A couple of months ago, I put out a few shows where the ending had me talking about how the player died. Most of you know, usually when I close a show, I leave you with a positive story about the player that hopefully leads to an upbeat ending on my way out. Some conclusions to my show, I leave the ending tragic to make a point. You're waiting for that curveball? Well, here it is, a downer ending with no real point. Bob Del Greco died on October 13th, 2019 from severe dementia. Bob was 86. I always hate to hear a person dying of not just dementia, but severe dementia. A really sad way to go out and must be so difficult for all involved. I do feel a sense of relief for those who passed away before they found out how life and the whole world would change with the introduction of COVID. The way I see it, the last thing you want as you're slipping away into the next world is to think the world you're leaving to your family is one that you yourself wouldn't want to live in. I say it's better to leave this life thinking to yourself that the world is only slowly slipping into hell, as opposed to all of us who were alive during the spread of this unknown virus, leading to a once-in-a-century pandemic that we'd all have to live through and experience the hardships that came with it, like lying on a gurney in a crowded hospital hallway because there are no beds available, with doctors, nurses, and paramedics running around everywhere as you lay there struggling to breathe. You are able to comprehend the chaos around you as bodies are wheeled past covered with a sheet. The hectic minutes turn into hectic hours with you just wanting some sort of relief and not getting any. You just suffer, laying there wondering how much time is left, with only one wish, not to keep on living. No, your one wish is to have a family member there next to you, but they are not allowed. And then you die.